and welcome back to another Tay Township Public Library craft and activity kit. For almost 100 years, Canadians have been wearing poppies for Remembrance Day. From the last Friday of October to November 11th, millions of Canadians wear a poppy pin, just like this one here. These pins became extremely popular after John McCrae, a Canadian doctor in World War I, wrote the poem In Flanders Fields. We included a copy of that poem in your kit. It is one of the best known poems in the world, and it is very important to Canadians. So important that we even printed poppies and lines from the poem on our money. Flanders is an area in Europe where many battles were fought in World War I, and McCrae wrote the poem after the Battle of Ypres, a particularly bad battle where many Canadians died. The poem talks about how the little poppies continued to grow even with so many terrible things happening around them. The poppy is a symbol of hope, of never giving up and never stopping. When we wear a poppy in November, we are promising to keep fighting too, to be strong and to fight for what is right no matter how hard it is. The poppy is also our promise to remember those who traveled so far away from home, who fought and died doing what was right. It is our promise to always remember and to never forget the sacrifices they made. So today we're going to be doing a craft in symbol of the poppy. So in your kit, you received a giant piece of construction paper to mount all your poppies on, to glue them onto, some red acrylic paint, 8 coffee filters, and a poppy printout. At home, you are going to need a paintbrush or more than one, a pencil, some school glue, which I'll get later, and black crayon or pencil crayon, as well as a pair of scissors. So let's look to the first page of our instructions, and it says to lightly draw poppies on all 8 of your coffee filters. You can draw your own unique poppies like we did in the example on the very first page, or you can trace the poppy in your kit that we provided. In your little instruction booklet, we also included, like I said, a copy of the poem by John McCrae, as well as a couple of other pages, coloring pages with poppies on them. So I'm going to do a couple by tracing this poppy. So let's go ahead and cut this out. And then I'm going to do a couple freehand. Okay, now that our poppy's cut out, we can use our pencil to lightly draw the poppy. Whoops. And you just want to do it lightly so that you have a pattern to paint your red painted poppy. So I'm just going to lightly sketch around it. And there you can see the poppy on their coffee filter. So we're gonna do that with all 8 of your poppies. You can trace that or draw your own shape. So make sure you move your blue or your big piece of construction paper off to the side so you don't get paint all over it. And for the next step, you want to make sure that you protect your work surface with a piece of newspaper or craft paper like I've got here. And then you are going to paint in your poppy. And I'm just going to do one to show you, and then we're going to let it dry. Put this piece of tape over here. my red paint. Use what's in the cap first. And then just be careful with your edges. Follow the pattern of your poppy edge. And paint it all in. And it does bleed through, and if you use too much paint or you go over the same section too much, it might rip the poppy or the coffee filter, sorry, because they're so thin. They're a little bit fragile, so just be careful of that. So I've gone around the outside first, and you can see it's bleeding through on my paper there. So we're just gonna then very lightly paint in the rest of the poppy. And there we have one poppy painted in. And we're gonna leave that to dry completely before we go to the next step. And I'm gonna go and make 7 more poppies just like that while you guys are painting yours. And then we'll talk about what to do next. Once the paint is dry, it's time to cut out all your poppies. To make the poppies really pop, we suggested cutting it with a little bit of white showing around the edges. That way when you glue it onto your colored construction paper, you'll really see those poppies. So we are going to use a pair of scissors and cut out all of our poppies. Then once you have them all cut out, put them in a stack and then put a bunch of heavy books or items on top to weigh them down, and then it'll flatten them out to get them ready to glue. So you can see I have a couple of different shapes of poppies. I did the one, now I don't know which one is this is the one that we gave you the template for. And I made a couple that are smaller, just have 4 simple petals, and some that are a little bit different shapes. So you can definitely play around with that. So let's take that one that we made with the template, and I'm just gonna cut out so you can see what it looks like with a little bit of that white border. And you have to be really gentle because the coffee filters will tear a little bit if you're not careful. And there I have my first poppy cut out, and you can see there's a little bit of a white edge. Now go ahead and cut out the rest of your poppies and come back and I'll show you the next step. All right, so I've gone ahead and cut out all 8 of my poppies. So we're gonna put that on the table, and then we're gonna take a big heavy stack of books and put it on top like that for several hours to press them perfectly flat. And then we're gonna come back and use a black crayon or pencil crayon to draw some details in the poppies. Okay, so these have been sitting for a little while. We're gonna take the books off and set them to the side. And here are our flattened poppies. Perfect, all right. Now the next part is to use a black crayon and add details to the poppy. So, in our example, we did a black center, and you can do little dots if you'd like to represent the seeds, just like that. And then you can give some little lines for the flower petals, and you can outline the petals too if you'd like that. and do some lines to give it a little bit of depth. I'm not sure if you can see that. I'm going to try another one with a pencil crayon to see if it's a little bit darker. You can do bigger circles, or you can just do a big dark circle in the middle, like the pins, whoops, like this. Or do it a little bit bigger. Or you can do this, like the pin actually has like a little bit of a flower shape to the black part. So you could do that and color it in. And the other thing you can do before you glue down your poppies is you can talk to your parents, grandparents, other relatives, and find out if there's any veterans in your family. And it would be really neat if you, veterans alive or past, and if you could write their name on the poppy. And then when you do your display, each poppy will be dedicated to somebody that you may know, or a neighbor that maybe fought in one of the wars. You can see I'm just putting a little bit of detail on them. And go ahead and do that to all your poppies. And they don't all have to look the same, because not every poppy is the same out in Flanders Fields either. I actually grew poppies in my garden this year to see some, because I had never actually seen live poppies. And they are quite pretty. They grow tall, and the seeds are a lot tinier than I thought they'd be. So I started collecting seeds in the summertime too. All right, one more. All right, so the last step is to glue them down on your piece of construction paper. So I'm going to take my poppies and bring them off to the side and get my piece of construction paper out. And then you just want to lay them out how you would like to display them. And if they're laying over the edge a bit, that's okay. You can cut off the extra, or you can rearrange them so that they all fit on the paper. And then we're going to glue them down. So I'm just going to push this off to the side and take a poppy and put a couple dabs of glue on it, and then I'm going to gently paint the back side with the glue. Or you can do a line like this. You don't need a whole lot. And then paint the glue on the back side to the edges so that your poppies don't come off your paper. And then stick it to your paper like this. Just gently push it down, and that will hold the coffee filter onto the paper. So you can go ahead and do that to all of your poppies. Glue them all down. And then, now what did the instructions say? It says, you can trim off any bits of flower hanging over the edge, like I said, and your vibrant and eye-catching rendition of Flanders Fields is all finished, and you can hang it up in a window so that other people can see it, or in your house, and you can use those poppies to remember. Thank you so much for joining us for another Tay Township Public Library craft. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget you can share your photos with us by either emailing us, library@tay.ca, or posting them on Facebook or Instagram and tagging us with @Tay Township PL. Thanks so much, and see you next time.